Okay, we're back. And okay, we have that kind of a skeleton of a game at the moment. What we need is a character that we can move around with. We're going to start out simple. We're just going to use a little ball, and then later on in the game, we'll change it so that it's actually a sprite of a character from a Super Nintendo game or something. Okay, to create our ball, first of all, we're going to need a sprite of it. We're going to need the picture. So let's click on that little red Pac-Man guy. And let's name this, amazingly, Ball Sprite. And we're going to load the sprite. It'll point right at our resource folder. And there's Ball. Excellent work. Get rid of that precise collision checking. We'll talk about that later. All right, we need an object, the ball object. So let's click on the blue ball. Always, always name your things intelligently. Ball object. Okay, we're going to attach the ball sprite to it. Fabulous. It is visible. Hooray. Now, events. This is where the ball actually has programming involved. The block just sits there. Stuff hits it and bounces off it or whatever. But the ball, we have to program the ball. And we use these things in video games called events. An event is where you press the trigger, you hit the A button, you click the mouse, you click on the keyboard. Two objects hit each other. There's all kinds of different events that you can have. Now we're going to be having keyboard events. We're going to be using the left, right, and up arrow keys in our keyboard. So let's go down here. Let's click on Add Event. And oh, look at all these great events. I can't wait till we get to them. All right, we'll click on Keyboard, and we'll start with left. We're going to move the ball to the left. Okay, so there's our event. And then each event has actions associated with it. You hit the left arrow key, this happens. It moves left. Now, the first thing we're going to do, last year with my students, we made maze games. And the biggest thing that the kids hated was your guy would collide with a wall, and sometimes he couldn't free himself. So what we're going to do in this game is we're going to check to make sure he doesn't. We're going to have like radar, like bat radar, so we can look ahead, and if something's in our way, we're not going to jump into it. And when you do something like that, where you're asking a question or you're checking if some place has free to go or whatever, usually you're going to be on the control tab. You can see on the actions here, we've got 7 different control tabs, all these different action tiles that we're going to use. Okay, so we're going to use this very first one here, the little circle. This is called check empty. So we're checking that a space 4 pixels to our left is going to be free, because we're going to be moving 4 pixels at a time. Okay, now you see this XY here? If you go back to your 6th or 7th grade math, you'll remember the XY axis. Well, this stuff's actually useful. Imagine that. The x-axis is the horizontal one, the y is the vertical one. We're moving 4 to the left, and if you remember, this is negative. Okay, so we're going to be moving -4. Well, we'll check 4 pixels to our left, as we're going to use a negative number. So put -4 here. The y-axis is 0 because we don't care. We're not going up and down. We don't care about that. We're just looking directly to our left. We're checking for solid objects. That's our blocks. Remember, we made them solid. And we're checking relative to our own position. Okay, that means wherever we are, we're just looking 4 pixels to our left. If I didn't check this relative, we'd be looking at the top corner of the room, and we wouldn't see anything up there. So you got to make sure you check this relative. It's relative to your position. Cool. So this says if the position 4 pixels to our left is open, then we can move there. Cool. Let's click on the Move tab. And we're going to use Jump to a position. It's the X with the little arrow going to the other X. So drag it in, and naturally there's going to be a -4 here as well because we're going 4 pixels to our left. And relative to ourselves. Okay? This relative is, once you wrap your head around it, you'll it's cool, but it can be tricky to understand. Some of my students just have given up and they just ask me, "What is it relative or not?" And every time I try to explain it. Some of them get it, some of them don't. All right, anyway, say okay. Okay, so moving left. So this should work. In fact, why don't we test it? Let's go to the room. Just double click on that room, and we're going to put the ball in here. Objects appear, if we you see this little objects tab here, if we click here, we can choose whether we want to put the block object there or the ball object. So we're going for the ball object, and we'll put it right here on the floor. Important to put it on the floor. Don't hang it up in the air, all right? And then let's test it. The test, there's a little green, looks like a DVD play button. So click on that. Now, la 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 la. If I hit the left arrow, oh, it's beautiful. Look, right arrow, nothing. Why? Obviously, because we haven't programmed it. And let's see if it stops. Hooray, it stops. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, let's get back to the ball object. Let's add the right event, the right keyboard. So click on Add Event, Keyboard, Right. Now notice there's no actions associated with this. Sometimes my students panic. They're like, "Oh no, they're gone. Oh my God." But if you click on the left keyboard, you'll see everything's fine, everything's still there. So don't panic. All right, so there's our right keyboard event. So let's check that there's nothing 4 pixels to our right. Bring in the same deal here. Now remember, we're going to the right. It's a positive 4, isn't it? Okay, so we put the 4 in here. You can't tell I'm a teacher at a school, can you? Sorry. We don't care about zeros. We don't care. We want to make sure that we're not hitting anything solid, and it's relative to our own position. Okay, say OK. All right, so if it's clear, then we're going to move. All right, click on the Move tab. Jump to a position. 4. Relative. Okay, let's test it again. Woohoo! Come on, little dual core, you can do it. All right, look, I can go left, I can go right. Oh, the up key doesn't work yet. All right, let's add the up key next. We're doing good, we're doing good. Let's, just for fun, let's save it. Hit that save button. Hooray! See how that's a floppy disk? When you know how people wear thumb drives around their neck sometimes, when those first came out, just for fun, sometimes I'd wear a floppy disk around my neck just to make my students laugh. All right, anyway, let's add the up arrow event. Click on Add Event, Keyboard, Up. Okay, here it is. Now, with up, we are more concerned with making a nice clean jump after you're standing on the floor. We absolutely do not want to be able to just double, triple, quadruple, just jump in the middle of the air. Okay, that makes the game very unrealistic. When I first started putting this together, I forgot about this step, and I could just jump into the air and nothing could stop me. It was kind of dumb. All right, so we're going to check, instead of checking to see if the area we're going to is clear, we're going to check to see if there's a collision below our feet. Okay, so see the second one here, the arrow with the little blue line? This says check collision. We want to check 1 pixel below our feet. So we're going to put a Y. We're on the Y-axis. That's the vertical axis. We don't care about the X. And we're checking that there's floor beneath us. We're just looking 1 pixel below for floor. Okay, and it's relative to our own position. Now, if you put the ball somewhere else, if you didn't put the ball on the floor, you won't be able to move because you'll be in the middle of the air. You can only jump when you are touching the floor. Okay, so if there's nothing below us, then we want to be able to jump up into the air. So we're going to click on the Move tab, and we're going to use this vertical speed. And what this does is this makes our object, it gives it vertical speed. Okay, we're going to use a vertical speed. Now, notice this is going down. So if I put 10 in here, when I hit the up arrow, it'll try to go down 10 because it's going down. So we want it to go up 10, so we're going to put a minus 10 in there. I know that sounds a little confusing, but now the speed in this game is not relative to anything. Relative means it changes based on something. Um, or relative to a position or something. As far as the speed goes, it's absolute. The speed is all from this thing is always going to be minus 10 when we hit the up arrow. So we're going to leave that blank. It's the speed is absolute, not relative. So let's say OK, and let's test our game. And hopefully you won't be surprised when I hit the up arrow because something odd happens. I can go left, I can go right. Now let's hit the up arrow, and oh my God. Look at that. It just flies off the screen. Probably you can tell me why. Yes, that's correct. We haven't added any gravity to the room. So in step 3 of our tutorial, we'll be adding gravity. All right, so take a quick bathroom break and come back and listen to step 3. Oh, and save your game. All right, bye.